Hello and welcome to this edition of 15 Minutes on ... I am Sam Hall, and in this edition we'll be focusing on Formula One. Firstly, we will discuss the internal problems that have become evident at Ferrari between their two drivers, and then we'll wrap things up a bit by talking about Nico Hülkenberg and how he has found himself without a drive for the 2020 season. Joining me to consider these topics today are Jake Sanson and Alex Goldsmith. Welcome, guys.
Hello, Sam.
Hello.
A very good evening.
So firstly, with Ferrari, it was always going to go bang at some point, really, wasn't it? With Mattia Binotto in pre-season saying that every 50-50 decision would be given in favour of Sebastian Vettel. Jake, was this the wrong thing to do from the offset?
I think to start the season off, it was a fairly cautious tactic, and fair enough from Ferrari, they kind of had to make an ace one way or the other, but looking at how the season has played out, it's ended up being quite a negative way of looking at it, because essentially what they've done pre-season is given, preferential treatment to Sebastian Vettel. It's almost a vote of no confidence for Charles Leclerc. Well, we thought you were brilliant last year. We want you so that nobody else does take your contract on. But they basically haven't given him much benefit of the doubt as to how quick he was going to be. Anybody who knows their karting history will know that Charles Leclerc was mighty as a junior in karting and as good, if not better, than Max Verstappen in terms of raw talent. So it's questionable that Ferrari would not give him that benefit of the doubt if they then had belief in him. But I suppose, given past history and the fact that Vettel has been their golden boy for the last 4 years, I don't really know what decision Mattia Binotto would have made pre-season, but they have had the problem of Charles Leclerc being faster than they expected him to be over the course of the year.
And Alex, Jake said that it was the wrong thing to do. He came in as a GP2 or as the Formula 2 champion, as the GP3 champion. What's your opinion on this?
I have to completely side with Jake on this, because Binotto isn't a kind of character that we've probably seen before at Ferrari, whereas we had likes of Stefano Domenicali, Jean Todt, who's now head of, president of the FIA, and also quite recently Arriva Bene, who was a very different character to what Maria Binotto is. So to already sort of downplay Charles by doing that was, I think, a bit of a mistake on their part, because what they should have done is sort of given both drivers equal opportunity. Okay, of course, Charles is over a decade younger than Sebastian. Sebastian's getting to the sort of like the twilight of his career, but they've got the hottest thing in Formula One, having come through the ranks, proved himself very, very credibly, and after 1 year in Formula One gets the call up from Sauber or Alfa Romeo up to Ferrari. I think it was a bit of a faux pas on Binotto and Ferrari's part, because of the fact that they have had so many changes, with Sergio Marchionne unfortunately passing away within the last 2 seasons. So it put Arriva Bene on notice, and then they promoted internally, but they should have kept it even Steven between Sebastian and Charles, for them both to have an equal opportunity, than sort of like saying, he's the 4-time world champion. Of course they're going to have some deference to him, but they should have just given Charles as much equal opportunity, if not potentially more, depending on the situation.
And obviously recently, in recent seasons, Sebastian Vettel's become more famous for his infrequent mistakes and errors rather than his ability to win races. Jake, do you think that his mistakes, especially the ones he's made this season as well, when he's had the pressure on him from a young gunner, hotshot, do you think that should have cost him his seat potentially?
Absolutely. I mean, his reaction to Charles Leclerc coming into Ferrari is very reminiscent to that of Fernando Alonso's reaction with Lewis Hamilton. I don't think he had any inkling for just how competitive Charles Leclerc was going to be. Ferrari wouldn't put their money into a new horse, as it were, if that horse wasn't going to be particularly competitive. So I think it was always going to be an interesting situation, because Sebastian Vettel has basically, realized, well, I'm the number one here. He's not going to be a challenge. Ferrari will give me preferential treatment. But from Bahrain, it was very clear that Charles Leclerc was going to be a lot faster. This is a man who's at the top of the tree in the biggest team in Formula One, basically assuming he's not going to be challenged, he's not going to be knocked off his throne, and he can't cope with it. It's very similar to how Fernando Alonso threw his toys out of the pram at McLaren. He can't deal with being second best.
And Alex, obviously, Bahrain for me was the turning point, the same as with Jake. Bahrain, where Charles was leading by such a large margin, and then he got let down by a reliability issue. At that point, should Ferrari have realised that they had something special or reacted to that and gone, you know what, fair game, everyone's equal?
They should have done. To be completely honest, he was clearly outpacing Sebastian by quite a considerable margin. Yeah, I mean, obviously with the reliability, that's part and parcel of racing that, you know, it just depends on how long that particular part or whatever reliability issue that has emerged, because they go through all these testing procedures like after every single race. But yeah, after Bahrain, they should have actually thought, well, hang on a second, he's just put in his first ever pole position on his second race with us, and that was just after one season. And to be completely honest, he's proved it time and time again. You know, he's had pole positions in Austria, he's had pole positions at Belgium and Italy where he picked up 2 wins, Singapore, Russia, Mexico. You know, so he's had one of these seasons that I think has overcome whatever expectations that anyone might have had of him, notwithstanding Ferrari. So they should have thought, well, hang on, he's just out-qualified Seb, and he's just put it on pole for his second race with us. Let's give him a chance and see what he can do.
And obviously, we're only talking about Ferrari now because of what happened at the last race in Brazil. Are we all in agreement that it was Sebastian's fault?
Without a shadow of doubt.
Alex?
100%, because we've seen some great action this year. But one of the biggest rules in racing is don't take out your teammate. And Sebastian is so well qualified as a Formula One driver. He's won 4 world titles. Why on earth did you decide at last minute to, you know, there could have been a misjudgment on his part. But Charles had the inside line. Sebastian went round the outside, which is the longer way round, and it compromised his entrance into that corner off of the back straight, just off of the centre S.
I think it's more than that. I think it's the fact that he just couldn't accept being overtaken by his young protege. He just couldn't accept it. He didn't expect Charles Leclerc to get him into the centre S the first corner because he came from a million miles back, got the move done beautifully, and I think he just saw red. He just went, no, hang on a minute, I'm not standing for this. I'm going to go for it back again. And the problem with Sebastian Vettel over the last few seasons, certainly during his time at Ferrari, is that he seems to hit the panic button. We saw it during 2017 with him and Lewis Hamilton at Baku. We've seen it happen several times in the last 18 months where he's thrown away points after points after points.
Yeah, German Grand Prix.
He can't hack it.
German Grand Prix, Sachs curver.
Yeah, it's like he just can't hack being in a racecraft situation. He seems to hit the panic button every time he gets into a bit of melee with someone.
I think it's not just Charles, Jake. I think it's all these young drivers that we're getting through now. Verstappen, for instance, he has definitely shown a cutthroat attitude, and he's really, really matured over the last season and a half because everyone knew that Max was quite hot-headed, quite temperamental, and that does come across sometimes when he's speaking to the media. But he is without any doubt, a full-blooded, hard-charging racer, and that's what we want to see. We want to see great moves from Verstappen and Leclerc going toe-to-toe with Red Bull against Ferrari once again, like it has been in the past. But yeah, Sebastian, I think his temperament isn't quite what it used to be. I mean, if anyone remembers that crash in 2010 between him and Mark Webber at Turkey, well, that just says it all. It's sort of like, does lightning strike twice?
Yeah, this was a replica. It was a replica.
It was a replica, but in 2 completely different Formula One locations. And yeah, I think Seb has really, I think the justification for Ferrari to pull them in and say, right, it's very much of Barcelona 2016, when both Hamilton and Rosberg came together. The same thing has happened with the two biggest powerhouses in Formula One, and I'm not at all surprised.
Well, interestingly, actually, they both got called in, but to separate meetings. They haven't had a meeting together. They both had meetings with Mattia, but they've not had meetings with each other. And then Ferrari have gone and said, yeah, everything's fine. Everything's brilliant between everyone. It's all water under the bridge. It's fine. Does anyone buy that for a second?
Wait until Abu Dhabi happens is all I'm saying.
I don't really know, because the thing is, you can't really make a judgment on it unless they've actually had an opportunity to have it out, the pair of them. What I think is going to be most important is how they react to it. But what you have to remember is that I actually feel that of the recent team principals, Mattia Binotto has actually got A, a very hard job, but B, he's got a lot of experience to draw from. What not a lot of people realize about Mattia Binotto is that he's actually been at Ferrari since the late 90s. So he's been there, starting in the engine department and working his way up through the technical side. He actually became the technical director during the time of Arriva-Bene. So he's been there through the Schumacher era and got there when, Schumacher and Barrichello were having their little tiffs in mid-2000 before Barrichello walked out.
Yeah, and when we had Ross Brawn there, Jean Todt, he's been with some of the biggest names in Formula One. And the two that I've just mentioned just happen to be hugely involved in FIA, but also FOM with regards to the motorsport.
Absolutely. Side. So he's got big shoes to fill, but he will have learned from their decision-making processes. He will have learned how to make these kind of decisions. So I think a lot of what happens now is going to be based on whether he decides to keep Vettel, whether he gets the call from Ferrari to kick him upstairs. It's going to be very, very tough moving forward, though. But if Vettel can't keep a lid on it, and if Charles Leclerc won't be reined in, they've got a massive problem heading into next year.
On that note, I have a question for you both. Should Ferrari keep Sebastian Vettel, or there's a driver on the market at the moment by the name of Nico Hülkenberg without a drive? Should they put Nico in the car instead?
I think 100% a no. And there's a couple of bits that we've got to really remember here. Out of the 176 starts that Nico Hülkenberg has had, he has never had a win. He has never had a podium finish. He's got 511 career points to his name. He's got one pole position, which was in his first ever year, which was with Williams at Brazil. And he's got two fastest laps, and he's currently seventh in the seventh. He was seventh in 2018. Ferrari they want a winner. They want someone that can do the business and get the job done and be an assistance to the team, not just in terms of the Constructors' Championship, but also drivers. So Nico Hülkenberg, for me, would be a definite no, unfortunately, even though he is a 24 Heures du Mans winner.
But do Ferrari actually want another number one driver? Or do they want to go back to their standard formation of a number one and a number two driver, with Charles being that number one?
The thing is, if you put Nico Hülkenberg in the Ferrari, what you will get is an incredible amount of data. You'll get a hard-working individual, and you will get a team player, which is currently what they don't have in Sebastian Vettel. And he's made that quite clear over the last 12 months. He's quite happy to fend for himself, but he doesn't seem to want to play ball with a teammate in quite the same way. As long as he's the top dog, it doesn't matter. Now, whether or not Nico Hülkenberg has the killer instinct or not to go for the victory, we've seen it in other formulas, and as a junior, he was incredible, but I just don't know if we're going to see that from him in Formula One. And as Alex made a point, maybe he's just missed his chance. The biggest thing I think that really spelled the end of his career was Germany this year. He was staring a podium, possibly even a victory in the face in the rain at Hockenheim, and he was one of the drivers who binned it in the final turn and went off the circuit. And that was Renault's only chance this year of a podium. It was their only opportunity. And for Nico Hülkenberg, that was probably his last chance of getting a podium finish as well. And the fact that he didn't do it, I think that's ultimately what made them think, well, Ocon was flirting with the podium week in, week out in the Force India. So this is maybe a guy who's already got more potential than Hülkenberg has.
So on that note, then we'll start with you, Jake, and then we'll go to Alex. Who would you put in the Ferrari should they decide to get rid of Sebastian Vettel?
It's a tall order, and I don't know if Ferrari would ever do it, but the only person for me that is eligible to replace Sebastian Vettel, who can be faster than him, who can mount a title challenge, and who can work with Charles Leclerc in order to support Ferrari to knock Mercedes off the top of the Constructors' Championship, for me, it's Daniel Ricciardo. For me, he's the only person on the grid who can do it. And yes, he's in a Renault. Yes, he's on a long-term deal. But look, he's had a miserable year with them. The unreliability has been even worse in 2019, even than it was with Red Bull last year. Since they switched over to Honda, they've obviously had success, and Renault's slumped backwards. Ferrari, ultimately, the only sensible thing from their point of view, if I was Mattia Binotto, is I'd be talking to Ricciardo's lawyers. I'd be trying to buy them out of his Renault contract and bring them across. I've said this for a while now. To paraphrase Bubbles Horsley's character played by Julian Reitert in Rush, you're never going to win the Constructors' Championship with Sebastian Vettel the way he's currently driving. You just might with Dan Ricciardo.
And Alex?
You can. They do say that great minds think alike, and yeah, I'd be, Daniel Ricciardo for Ferrari would be the complete package.
Yeah,
he's incredibly hardworking. Let's not forget of his surname as well. It is Italian, so straight away that'll scream volumes with the Tifosi. He's a really nice guy off the track, which also does help because even though, through the tough times with Red Bull when Max Verstappen joined the team, he was smiling nevertheless. And he always uses every single situation, whether it's negative or positive, to bring positivity out of it. And that's what Ferrari need. They need someone that's young, that's hungry, that wants to learn, but has that raw talent. And with Ricciardo, they'll have someone that will work hard, be a team player, but also is the master of the school of send in Formula One.
Yeah.
Most recently, he will. If anyone remembers his move on Bottas when he was with Red Bull last season,
the one in China.
That was it in Shanghai. That move just literally said to me, we haven't just got the young guns doing it; we've got the experienced drivers, and Ferrari will want someone like Ricciardo who can push the car hard. And not just worry about the straight line speed advantage that we've seen with Scuderia Ferrari, over a number of seasons, and Mercedes have been a bit on the back foot with regards to it. And Charles is the one that's really been exploiting it. And if you had Daniel, he could help set up that car really, really well. You'd have a great pair of teammates. But yeah, with Sebastian, it's just like it's all me or nothing.
Yeah. I mean, Ricciardo is the ultimate choice, but come on, let's do the dance with Ronnie Real, because you've got to remember that Ferrari have got to think carefully. Yes, it will be great for him to go into Ferrari and Vettel to get the boot, but they're going to play on the side of caution, aren't they? They're going to keep Vettel for another year. I mean, what's the alternative? Take Hülkenberg, buy Ricciardo out of his contract, or there's only one other person I can think of who they might consider, and that's Fernando Alonso. And he's a spent force, as far as I'm concerned, in Formula One. There's no other alternative. So from Ferrari's point of view, Binotto's got to be very careful not to rock the boat. I want him to go for Ricciardo, but I don't see them doing anything other than keeping Vettel. And they're going to have a horrific year next year if they do.
Well, this is very good because I can tell you both that you're completely wrong. And I love it when I can do that. Because what I would do if I was Binotto, I would be contacting Williams and I would be asking what I would need to do to get George Russell. I would be getting George Russell because the worst case scenario there is that Mercedes promote him, get rid of Valtteri Bottas, and thank you very much, I'll have Bottas as a number 2 driver.
Yeah, to be fair, you're absolutely spot on, because the thing is, I've always said for a long time, to ruin the Mercedes harmony, Bottas is not a bad bet to go over to Ferrari, because you've got to rock the boat. You've got to ruin that wonderful little harmonious sanctity that Lewis Hamilton has at Mercedes. He knows that Bottas isn't going to be a real threat. He knows he's not going to rock the boat. He knows he's going to be a team player. Either poach Bottas or really hamper it to Mercedes and poach Russell. Very good move.
So on that note, I'm going to call time. We should really start naming this 20 minutes on ... because it always seems to get that long. Alex, where can people find you on social media if they want to follow you or anything?
Well, you can find me on multiple platforms at a Goldschmidt 90. I think it. Hang on, I'm getting a bit forgetful in my old age, considering I am older than the pair of you. I'm in my 40s. I don't know about these two young whippersnappers, but it's at A Goldschmidt 77 on Twitter. You can find me on multiple streams on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. There's so many things I keep on doing. I mean, so much going on for next year, but that's the way motorsport works, doesn't it, Jake?
Absolutely.
And where can we find you, Jake?
At Jake Sanson on Twitter, at Jake Sanson Official on Facebook and Instagram, and on Virtually Challenged on Twitch.
And I've been Sam Hall. You can find me on all of my social media platforms at Sam Hall Sport. And we'll be back soon again with some more 15 minutes on ... Thank you for listening.